The champagne glass slipped from my fingers before I could catch it. I watched it fall in slow motion. Crystal tumbling through the air, golden bubbles catching the chandelier light, then shattering across the marble floor in an explosion of sound that seemed to stop the entire ballroom. 200 pairs of eyes turned toward me. 200 wealthy, glittering strangers in designer gowns and tailored suits, their conversations dying mid-sentence. My face burned. My hands trembled as I crouched down, mumbling apologies, reaching for the largest shards with my bare fingers. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," I whispered, my voice barely audible over the string quartet that had mercifully continued playing. A piece of glass bit into my thumb, drawing blood, but I didn't stop. I couldn't. I needed to clean this up, needed to disappear, needed to... Leave it. The voice came from above me, low, quiet, but carrying an unmistakable weight of command. A voice that didn't need to be loud to demand obedience. I froze, my fingers still wrapped around a jagged piece of crystal. Slowly, I lifted my gaze from the floor, past polished black shoes that probably cost more than my monthly rent, up the perfectly tailored lines of a charcoal suit, to a face that made my breath catch in my throat. He was beautiful in the way dangerous things are beautiful, sharp jawline shadowed with stubble, dark eyes that seemed to see straight through me, black hair swept back from a face that belonged on Roman coins. But it wasn't his looks that made my heart hammer against my ribs. It was the absolute stillness he carried, the way everyone in his vicinity had unconsciously stepped back, creating a circle of empty space around him like he was radioactive. "You're bleeding," he said, his accent slight but unmistakable, Italian, maybe, or Mediterranean. He extended a hand toward me, and I noticed the others, 2 massive men in dark suits flanking him, their eyes constantly scanning the room, hands hovering near their jackets in a way that made my stomach tighten with sudden, primal fear. "I can clean it up," I said quickly, my voice shaking. "I just need a dustpan. You'll cut yourself further." He didn't withdraw his hand. "Take it." It wasn't a request. My fingers, still trembling, reached up to grasp his. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, and the moment our skin touched, something electric shot up my arm. He pulled me to my feet with effortless strength, steadying me when I wobbled in my borrowed heels. Up close, he smelled like expensive cologne, sandalwood and something darker, smokier, layered over the faint scent of leather and danger. His eyes held mine, and I couldn't look away, couldn't breathe, couldn't think beyond the fact that this man, whoever he was the most terrifying and magnetic person I'd ever encountered. "Sir, I apologize for my clumsiness," I managed, trying to pull my hand back. He didn't release it. "I'm new. This is only my second night serving, and You're terrified," he observed, his thumb brushing across my knuckles in a gesture that felt both protective and possessive. "Why?" "Because you look at me like you're deciding whether to save me or devour me," I thought. "Because your bodyguards have the eyes of predators. Because every instinct I have is screaming that you're dangerous, that I should run, that I should... I need this job," I said instead, the truth spilling out. "I can't afford to be fired. I have rent due and student loans, and my car is making this noise that..." I stopped myself, realizing I was babbling to a stranger who probably owned half the city. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have... What's your name?" "Emma." The word came out as barely a whisper. "Emma Reeves. Emma." He said it slowly, like he was tasting it, memorizing it. "I'm... Mr. Salvatore!" A woman's voice cut through the moment, sharp, cultured, irritated. A blonde in a dress that cost more than my education swept toward us, her smile not reaching her cold blue eyes. "There you are. The ambassador has been looking for you, and we simply must discuss the Prague acquisition before..." Her gaze flicked to me, dismissive and contemptuous. "Has the help been bothering you? I'll have her removed immediately." "No." The single word carried such finality that the woman actually took a step back. "Leave us." Her perfectly painted mouth fell open. "Excuse me?" "You heard me, Camilla." He still hadn't released my hand, and now his grip tightened almost imperceptibly. Go. Now. The woman's face flushed with rage and humiliation, but she turned on her designer heels and stalked away, her spine rigid with barely contained fury. I felt a flash of sympathy for her. I knew what it was like to be dismissed, to be made invisible, but it was quickly swallowed by confusion. Why was he defending me? Why was he still holding my hand? Why was he looking at me like I was the only person in this room of hundreds? Your thumb, he said, finally releasing me to pull a pristine white handkerchief from his pocket. Before I could protest, he'd wrapped it around my bleeding finger, his movement surprisingly gentle for hands that looked like they'd seen violence. You should be more careful, Emma. This world. He gestured vaguely at the ballroom, at the glittering crowd, at everything around us. It's full of sharp edges. I know, I said softly. I've been cutting myself on them for years. Something shifted in his expression, a flicker of recognition, maybe, or understanding. He opened his mouth to speak, but one of his bodyguards leaned in, whispering something urgent in his ear. His jaw tightened, and for a moment I saw beneath the polished exterior to something harder, darker, infinitely more dangerous. I have to go, he said, his voice carrying genuine regret. But Emma... He reached into his jacket, and I flinched involuntarily. His eyes darkened at my reaction, but he simply withdrew a business card, pressing it into my uninjured hand. If you need anything at all, call this number. I looked down at the card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering. Dante Salvatore. No other information, just a name and a phone number. I don't understand, I whispered. Why would you? Because you remind me of someone, he said quietly, and there was something raw in his voice, something that made my chest ache. Someone I failed to protect. His fingers brushed my cheek, so briefly I might have imagined it. Don't let this world break you, Emma Reeves. Then he was gone, his bodyguards closing ranks around him as he moved through the crowd like a king through his court. People stepped aside without being asked, their faces a mixture of respect, fear, and awe. I stood alone in the middle of the ballroom, clutching his handkerchief and his card, my heart racing, my mind spinning. What the hell just happened? I breathed. You stupid, stupid girl. I turned to find Margaret, the catering supervisor, her face purple with rage. Do you have any idea who that was? Do you have any concept of what you've just done? I dropped a glass, I said weakly. I didn't mean to. That was Dante Salvatore, she hissed, grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise. He practically owns this city. And you incompetent little... She dragged me toward the service entrance, away from the curious stares of guests who'd witnessed the entire encounter. You're fired. Get your things and get out. Now. Please, I begged, stumbling after her in my too high heels. Please, I need this job. I can't... Should have thought of that before you made a spectacle of yourself. She shoved me through the swinging doors into the harsh fluorescent lighting of the service corridor. Out, before I call security. 10 minutes later, I stood on the street outside the Grand Meridian Hotel, my cheap coat pulled tight against the November cold, my eyes burning with tears I refused to let fall. My phone buzzed. A text from my roommate asking if I could cover her half of the utilities this month. Another buzz. A reminder that my car payment was overdue. A third. An email from my student loan servicer. I looked down at the business card still clutched in my hand, at the name embossed in black, Dante Salvatore. I should throw it away. I should forget this entire humiliating night ever happened. I should... My phone rang, an unknown number flashing on the screen. Against every instinct screaming at me not to, I answered. Hello? Emma Reeves? A woman's voice, professional, cold. This is Victoria Chen, Mr. Salvatore's personal assistant. Mr. Salvatore would like to offer you a position. My breath caught. A position? As his personal server for a private event tomorrow evening. The pay is $5,000 for 4 hours of work. Are you interested? $5,000. That was more than I made in 2 months. That was my rent, my car payment, my loans, my utilities, my groceries. All of it, solved, in one night. It was too much. Too easy. Too perfect. Too dangerous. I swallowed hard, staring up at the glittering windows of the hotel, knowing he was up there somewhere, knowing this was a terrible idea, knowing I should say no, knowing I'm interested, I heard myself say. Excellent. A car will pick you up at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Please dress appropriately. Formal attire. The address is being sent to your phone now. A pause. And Miss Reeves? Mr. Salvatore doesn't extend offers like this often. Don't disappoint him. The line went dead. I stood there on the freezing street, my breath misting in the air, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst from my chest. Every rational thought in my head was screaming that this was wrong, that no legitimate job paid $5,000 for 4 hours, that men like Dante Salvatore didn't help girls like me out of kindness. But desperation makes fools of us all, and I was very, very desperate. I looked down at the card again, at his name, at the phone number I now had memorized without meaning to. Tomorrow evening. A private event. $5,000. What could possibly go wrong? The car that arrived at 6 p.m. wasn't just a car. It was a statement. A black Mercedes S-Class with windows so darkly tinted I couldn't see inside, idling at the curb outside my apartment building like a sleek predator. The driver who emerged wore a suit that probably cost more than everything in my closet combined, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses despite the evening gloom. Miss Reeves? His voice was flat, professional, revealing nothing. That's me, I said, suddenly hyper-aware of my bargain dress, the only formal thing I owned that didn't have visible stains or tears. I'd spent an hour on my makeup, trying to look sophisticated, polished, like I belonged in Dante Salvatore's world. Looking at my reflection in the car's immaculate paint job, I knew I'd failed. The driver opened the rear door without comment. I slid inside, onto leather seats so soft they felt like butter, into an interior that smelled like luxury and secrets. The door closed with a solid thunk that sounded like a vault ceiling. We pulled away from my shabby apartment building, and I watched through the tinted windows as my neighborhood, with its flickering streetlights and cracked sidewalks, gave way to progressively nicer areas. Tree-lined streets, wrought iron fences, mansions set back from the road, their windows glowing with warm light. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Don't be nervous. You'll do fine. D. My heart stuttered. He was texting me. Dante Salvatore was texting me personally, not through his assistant. And somehow that felt more intimate than it should. I typed back with trembling fingers. Where are we going? His response came immediately. Home. Home. His home. I was going to Dante Salvatore's home. Not a hotel ballroom or restaurant, not some public venue with witnesses and escape routes, but his actual private residence. And suddenly, the $5,000 felt less like generous payment and more like compensation for something I didn't yet understand. The car turned through iron gates that opened automatically, rolling up a driveway lined with ancient oak trees. Then the house came into view, and I forgot how to breathe. It wasn't a house. It was an estate, a sprawling Mediterranean villa in creamstone with arched windows and terracotta tiles, surrounded by manicured gardens that probably required an army of groundskeepers. Warm light spilled from every window, making it glow against the darkening sky like something from a dream. Or a nightmare. The car stopped at the front entrance, where 2 more men in dark suits stood flanking the massive wooden doors. The driver opened my door, and I stepped out on shaking legs, my cheap heels clicking against marble steps. Miss Reeves. One of the guards nodded at me, speaking into a nearly invisible earpiece. Mr. Salvatore is expecting you. Please follow me. Inside was even more overwhelming. Soaring ceilings with exposed wooden beams, oil paintings that looked like they belonged in museums, furniture that was somehow both antique and modern, expensive and comfortable. Every surface gleamed, every detail was perfect. Every breath I took felt like I was inhaling someone else's air. We walked through corridors that seemed endless, passing rooms I could only glimpse. A library with floor-to-ceiling books, a dining room with a table that could seat 20, something that looked like an actual ballroom, until finally we stopped before a set of double doors. The guard knocked once, then opened them without waiting for a response. Emma. Dante stood by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens, lit by subtle landscape lighting, a crystal tumbler of amber liquid in his hand. He'd shed his jacket, his white shirt unbuttoned at the collar, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms marked with what looked like scars. His hair was slightly mussed, like he'd been running his hands through it. And somehow this more casual version of him was even more devastating than the polished businessman from last night. Mr. Salvatore, I managed, my voice embarrassingly breathless. Dante, he corrected, moving toward me with that predatory grace I remembered. In private, you call me Dante. He stopped close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. You look beautiful. I almost laughed. Beautiful. Me, in my discount dress and drugstore makeup, standing in a room that probably cost more than my entire life's earnings. But the way he looked at me, like I was something precious, something rare, made the lie feel almost true. Thank you for the opportunity, I said formally, falling back on the script I'd rehearsed. Your assistant mentioned serving at a private event? I'm happy to. There is no event. My heart stopped. What? There's no party, no guests, no catering service required. He took another sip of his drink, his eyes never leaving mine. I lied. The room suddenly felt smaller, the air thicker. I took an involuntary step backward, and his expression darkened. Don't, he said quietly. Don't look at me like that. Like I'm going to hurt you. Then why am I here? My voice came out higher than intended, fear crystallizing in my chest. If there's no job, why did you? Because I couldn't stop thinking about you. The confession came out raw, almost angry, like he resented the admission. Because last night, when you looked at me with those terrified eyes, something in my chest cracked open. Because you remind me of... He stopped himself, jaw clenching. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I wanted to see you again, and I knew you needed money, so I gave you a reason to come. You tricked me. Anger was starting to overtake fear, hot and righteous. You manipulated me into coming here, into your home, alone, with your guards everywhere and no way for me to... Leave. He set his glass down with a sharp clink. You can leave right now. The car will take you home, and you'll still receive the $5,000. No strings, no obligations, no expectations. He pulled out his phone, fingers moving across the screen. There, the money's in your account. Check if you don't believe me. I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands, pulled up my banking app, and stared at the balance in disbelief. $5,000, already transferred, already mine, whether I stayed or left. I don't understand, I whispered. I know you don't. He moved closer again, and this time I didn't retreat. I know this looks suspicious, predatory, like every bad situation a woman could find herself in. But Emma... His hand rose slowly, giving me time to pull away before his fingers gently tilted my chin up. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm going to feed you dinner, which my chef has prepared, and we're going to talk. That's all. Just talk. Why? Because I'm curious about you. His thumb brushed across my lower lip, sending electricity sparking down my spine. Because you walked into that ballroom last night looking like you were carrying the weight of the world, and when you dropped that glass, you looked more devastated than most people do at actual tragedies. Because you're drowning, Emma Reeves, and I want to know why. I should leave. Every self-preservation instinct I possessed was screaming at me to take the money and run, to get away from this beautiful, dangerous man and his beautiful, dangerous house and his beautiful, dangerous attention. But when was the last time someone had looked at me like I mattered? When was the last time someone had wanted to know my story, my struggles, my pain? When was the last time I'd felt anything other than invisible? Just dinner? I asked, my voice barely audible. Just dinner, he confirmed. And conversation. And if at any point you want to leave, you leave. No questions, no consequences. His hand dropped from my face, leaving my skin cold. But I hope you'll stay. He held out his hand, an invitation, not a command. And after a moment's hesitation, I took it. His fingers closed around mine, warm and strong, and he led me through his palace of a home, down corridors where more guards stood at intervals, their presence a constant reminder of exactly who Dante Salvatore was. Not just wealthy, not just powerful, something more, something darker, something that required this level of security. We emerged onto a terrace overlooking the gardens, where a table had been set for two, candles flickering in the evening breeze, wine already poured, covered dishes that smelled like heaven. "Sit," he said gently, pulling out a chair for me. I sat, and he took the seat across from me, close enough to touch but respecting the space between us. He lifted one of the silver domes, revealing what looked like restaurant-quality pasta in a cream sauce that made my stomach growl embarrassingly loud. "When did you last eat?" he asked, his tone sharp. "This morning. Toast." The truth slipped out before I could stop it. "I've been trying to save money for—" I stopped myself, realizing how pathetic I sounded. "Eat." He served me a generous portion, then himself. "And tell me about yourself. Where are you from?" So I ate, and God, it was the best food I'd ever tasted. And I talked. I don't know what made me open up to him. This stranger who was clearly dangerous, clearly involved in things that required armed guards and bulletproof cars. Maybe it was the wine, or the way he listened like every word mattered, or the simple fact that I was so tired of carrying everything alone. I told him about growing up in foster care, about aging out of the system at 18 with nothing but a high school diploma and crushing loneliness, about putting myself through community college while working 3 jobs, about the student loans that felt like chains around my neck, about the car that was dying, and the landlord who was threatening eviction, and the constant grinding terror of being one emergency away from homelessness. "I'm 23 years old," I heard myself say, my voice cracking, "and I'm so tired. I'm so tired of fighting, of struggling, of watching everyone else live while I just survive." And last night when I dropped that glass, I thought... I stopped, pressing my palms against my eyes to hold back tears. I thought it was over. My one chance at getting ahead, at making decent money, and I destroyed it in 10 seconds of clumsiness. "Emma." His voice was soft, devastated. "Look at me." I dropped my hands, and through blurred vision, I saw him standing, moving around the table to kneel beside my chair. Kneeling. This powerful man in his expensive clothes in his palace of a home, kneeling at my feet like I was something holy. "You are not clumsy," he said fiercely. "You are exhausted. You are carrying burdens no one should carry alone. And you—" His hands cupped my face, thumbs wiping away tears I hadn't realized were falling. "You are not going to fall. Not anymore. Not on my watch. You don't even know me," I whispered. "Then let me." His eyes burned into mine, dark and intense, and full of something I couldn't name. "Let me know you, Emma. Let me help you. Let me—" A sharp knock on the terrace doors interrupted him. One of his guards stood there, his expression urgent. Dante's entire demeanor changed, the gentleness vanishing, replaced by something cold and lethal. "What?" "Sir, we have a situation. Marco's been spotted in the city, with men." The name clearly meant something, because Dante's jaw clenched so hard I heard teeth grinding. "How many men?" "At least a dozen. They're asking questions, about you." "And?" The guard's eyes flicked to me, then back to Dante. "And about a woman you were seen with, at the Meridian. Last night." My blood turned to ice. Dante stood slowly, his hand going to something at his back, and when he pulled it out, I saw the gun for the first time. Black metal, compact, deadly, held with the easy familiarity of someone who'd used it before. "Get inside," he said to me, his voice completely different now, sharp, commanding, allowing no argument. "Now, what's happening?" My voice shook. "Who's Marco? Why are people inside? Now, don't make me carry you." 2 more guards appeared from nowhere, flanking me, their hands hovering near their own weapons. One spoke into his earpiece. "Package is moving. Secure the house." Full lockdown protocol. "Dante..." I tried, but he wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at something beyond the gardens, his body tense, predatory, ready for violence. "Take her to my room," he ordered the guards. "Lock her in. No one gets in or out until I clear it." "Wait, no, you can't just..." But they were already moving me, professional and impersonal, back through the house, up a grand staircase, down another corridor to a door that required a keycard to open. The room beyond was massive, all dark wood and leather and masculine comfort, but I barely registered it before they were leaving, the door closing with an ominous click. I rushed to it, twisted the handle. Locked, from the outside. I was trapped in Dante Salvatore's bedroom, while men with guns talked about situations, and people asking questions about me. And somewhere in this beautiful prison, danger was coming. And I had no idea why. The minutes crawled by like hours. I paced Dante's bedroom, because what else could I do? My heels clicking against hardwood floors, my mind racing with possibilities, each one worse than the last. The room smelled like him, that same sandalwood and smoke scent that had invaded my senses last night, and somehow that made everything more real, more terrifying. Who was Marco? Why were people looking for me? What had I stumbled into by accepting Dante's invitation? I moved to the windows, floor-to-ceiling glass overlooking the gardens, and my breath caught. Below, I could see movement, guards spreading out across the grounds, some with visible weapons, others speaking urgently into earpieces. The beautiful estate had transformed into a fortress, and I was locked in the tower. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, "Stay away from the windows." I jumped back like the glass had burned me, my heart hammering. Another buzz. "I mean it, Emma. Center of the room. Sit on the bed. Don't move until I come for you. What's happening?" I typed back with shaking fingers. The reply came instantly. "Keeping you safe. That's all that matters." But I wasn't safe. I was trapped in a strange man's house, surrounded by armed guards, while some threat I didn't understand circled closer. This wasn't safety. This was a different kind of danger. I sat on the edge of his bed, massive, covered in charcoal silk sheets, and tried to steady my breathing. My eyes traveled around the room, looking for anything that might tell me who Dante Salvatore really was. The furniture was expensive but sparse. No photographs, no personal items. Nothing that suggested this was where he actually lived rather than just slept. Then I noticed the bookshelf against one wall, and despite my terror, curiosity pulled me toward it. The titles were eclectic: Italian literature alongside American thrillers, philosophy texts next to books on chess strategy, but it was the bottom shelf that made me freeze. Photo albums. 4 of them, leather-bound and worn from handling. I shouldn't. I knew I shouldn't. But my hands were already reaching, pulling one free, opening it to reveal. A young Dante, maybe 20, his arm around a girl who couldn't have been more than 19. She was beautiful. Dark hair, bright smile, wearing a simple dress and laughing at something off camera. They looked happy, in love, normal. I flipped through more pages, the same girl, over and over. At a beach, at a restaurant, in front of Christmas lights, and in every photo, Dante looked at her like she was his entire world. The last photo in the album stopped my heart. The girl was pregnant, her hand resting on a small bump. Dante kneeling before her with his forehead pressed against her belly. His eyes were closed, his expression one of such pure joy and reverence that my chest ached just looking at it. But there were no more albums after that one. No baby pictures, no family photos, just 3 empty albums, waiting for a story that never came. "You remind me of someone," Dante had said. "Someone I failed to protect." Oh, God. The door's lock beeped, and I barely had time to shove the album back before it opened. Dante stood in the doorway, and my relief at seeing him alive and unharmed lasted exactly 2 seconds before I registered his expression. Fury. Cold. Controlled. Absolutely terrifying fury. "We need to talk," he said, his voice flat. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him, and I noticed his shirt was untucked. His knuckles were split and bleeding, and there was a darkness in his eyes that made my survival instinct scream. "Are you hurt?" The question came out before I could stop it. Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe. "No, the blood isn't mine." That should have terrified me more, but instead I felt a strange relief. "The men outside?" Marco? Gone. For now. He moved to a cabinet, pulled out a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses, poured generous amounts into both. Drink this. I took the glass with trembling hands and downed half of it in one burning gulp. Tell me what's going on, please. I deserve to know why people are looking for me, why I'm locked in your bedroom, why. How much do you know about me? He interrupted, his eyes boring into mine, about what I do, what I am. My mouth went dry. I know you're wealthy, powerful. I know people are afraid of you. I know you have more security than the president. I hesitated. And I know you're involved in something illegal. That's putting it mildly. He downed his own drink, poured another. My family has controlled the Chicago underworld for 3 generations. Shipping, gambling, construction, waste management. If there's money in it, legitimate or otherwise, we have our hands in it. I'm not just wealthy, Emma. I'm the head of one of the largest organized crime families on the East Coast. The words hung in the air between us. Organized crime. Mafia. The kind of thing you saw in movies, not sitting in a bedroom drinking whiskey with a man who'd somehow become important to you in less than 24 hours. You're telling me you're a mob boss, I said slowly. I'm telling you the truth. Because you're in danger, and you need to understand why. He set his glass down with controlled precision. Last night, when I approached you at the Meridian, we were seen. By multiple people. Including Camilla Rossi, the woman I dismissed. She's the daughter of a rival family, and she's been trying to solidify an alliance through marriage for months. I've refused her repeatedly, but last night, when I humiliated her publicly to defend you. His jaw clenched. She sent word to Marco Vitelli, the name again. Who is he? Someone who should be dead. Dante's voice turned bitter. My former best friend, my brother and everything but blood, until 4 years ago, when I found him in bed with my fiancé. My heart stuttered. The girl from the photos. Sophia was pregnant with my child. He continued, each word seeming to cost him. 6 months along. We were supposed to be married within weeks, and I trusted Marco completely. He was my second in command, my right hand, my family. He laughed, sharp and humorless. I came home early from a business trip to surprise her. Instead, I found them together. In our bed. In our home. Dante. I whispered, my heart breaking for the pain etched into every line of his face. Marco ran. Took $2 million from my accounts and disappeared. I spent months hunting him, but he'd covered his tracks well. And Sophia. His voice cracked, just slightly. Sophia lost the baby from the stress. Miscarried at 7 months. A girl. We were going to name her Isabella. Tears burned my eyes. I'm so sorry. Sophia couldn't forgive me for what happened. For bringing that violence, that betrayal into her life. She left 6 months later, and I haven't seen her since. He finally looked at me, and the devastation in his eyes was almost too much to bear. I failed to protect her, failed to see Marco's betrayal, failed my daughter before she even drew breath. That's not your fault, I said fiercely. He betrayed you. He's responsible for, and now he's back. Dante moved closer, his presence overwhelming. And he knows about you, knows I've shown interest in someone for the first time in 4 years. Knows you're my weakness. I'm not. We barely know each other. That doesn't matter to men like Marco. His hands framed my face, tilting it up to meet his burning gaze. He'll use you to hurt me, to draw me out, to get revenge for the years I spent hunting him. And Emma. His thumbs stroked my cheekbones with devastating gentleness. I will not lose someone again. I will not let another woman suffer because of my world. I will not. Then let me go, I said, even though the words felt like swallowing glass. Let me leave. If I'm a target, if I'm in danger because of you, then the solution is simple. I disappear. You forget about me. And no, the word was absolute, final. That ship sailed the moment you took my hand last night. The moment you looked at me like I was human instead of a monster. The moment. He stopped himself, jaw working. You're under my protection now. Whether you want it or not. You can't just decide that. I just did. He released me, stepping back, and I saw the transformation. the vulnerable man disappearing behind the mask of the crime lord. You have two choices, Emma. 1. You stay here, in this house, under guard 24 hours a day until I eliminate the threat. You'll be safe, comfortable, and very, very bored. 2. You refuse my protection, and I have you taken somewhere else, a safe house, equally secure, equally guarded, where you'll be safe, comfortable, and very, very alone. Those aren't choices. My voice rose despite my fear. Those are both prisons. Yes. No apology, no remorse, but they're prisons where you'll live, the alternative. You going home, going to work, living your normal life while Marco's men hunt you? That ends with you dead or worse, and I won't allow it. I wanted to argue, wanted to fight, to insist I could take care of myself, to reject his high-handed arrogance. But the terror in my chest, the memory of guards with guns and his bloody knuckles and the way he'd said, "The blood isn't mine," all of it told me he was right. I was in danger I couldn't comprehend, from men I couldn't fight, in a world I didn't understand. And Dante Salvatore, mob boss and killer and beautiful broken man, was offering to be my shield. Why? I whispered. Why do you care? Why risk yourself, your people, your resources for someone like me? He moved back toward me, slowly, giving me time to retreat. When I didn't, he pulled me against his chest, one arm wrapping around my waist, the other hand tangling in my hair. I could feel his heart beating, fast, erratic, betraying the emotion he tried to hide. Because when I look at you, he said against my hair, I see Sophia before my world destroyed her. I see innocence and hope and softness, and I want... His voice roughened. I want to protect that. I want to keep you safe from men like me, from worlds like mine. I want to be your monster, Emma, not the monster that devours you. I should have been terrified, should have run screaming from this confession, from this obsession, from this man who decided I belonged to him without my consent. But instead, I felt something else, something warm and desperate and equally irrational. I felt safe. Stay with me, he murmured, echoing what he'd said last night. Not in a safe house, not locked away. Stay here, with me. Let me know you. Let me... He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. Let me try to be something other than what I am. For you. And if I say no, then I put you in the safe house, and I hate myself for it, and you hate me for it. And we're both miserable, but at least you're breathing. His hand cupped my cheek, but I'm hoping you'll say yes. Every rational thought told me to refuse, to choose the safe house, the distance, the safety of not being close to this dangerous, obsessive, broken man. But rationality had never done much for me. Rationality had left me alone and struggling and invisible. And Dante Salvatore saw me, really saw me, like I mattered, like I was worth protecting, like I was worth... I'll stay, I whispered. His eyes closed, and I felt the shudder that ran through his body. Thank you. But I have conditions, I continued, finding some core of strength I didn't know I possessed. I'm not your prisoner. I'm not your possession. And I'm not a replacement for Sophia. You could never be a replacement for her. He opened his eyes, and they were blazing with intensity. You're something entirely different. Something I don't have words for yet. Then figure out the words, I said. Because I need to understand what this is. What you want from me. What... The lights went out. Not just in the bedroom. Everywhere. The entire estate plunged into darkness so complete I couldn't see Dante's face inches from mine. Then, from somewhere below, came the sound of gunfire. Dante's arms became iron bands around me, pulling me to the floor as glass shattered somewhere close. His body covered mine, pressing me into the carpet, his weight crushing but protective. Don't move, he breathed in my ear, his voice deadly calm despite the chaos erupting around us. Don't make a sound. Don't... A red dot appeared on the wall beside us. Then another, then a third, dancing in the darkness like deadly fireflies. Laser sights, from rifles, pointed at the room. At us. There's a red dot on your chest, I whispered, seeing the pinpoint of light steady over his heart. I know, he said quietly. But Emma, His hand found mine in the darkness, squeezing tight. "Stay with me." The gunfire stopped as suddenly as it had started, leaving only ringing silence and the sound of my panicked breathing. Dante's body remained over mine, protective and immovable, his heartbeat strong against my back. The red dots still danced across the walls, tracking slowly through the darkness like predatory eyes searching for targets. "Backup generator should kick in," he murmured against my ear, his breath warm. 10 seconds. When the lights come on, I need you to run to the bathroom. Lock yourself in the tub. Stay below the window line. Understand? What about you? I'll be fine. Emma, his grip on my hand tightened. Promise me you'll run. I promise. Good girl. The emergency lights flickered on, dim, red-tinged, turning everything the color of blood. In that instant, Dante moved with terrifying speed, pulling me up and shoving me toward the bathroom door while simultaneously drawing his gun and firing 3 shots through the window. Glass exploded outward. The red dots vanished. I stumbled into the bathroom, my ears ringing from the gunshots, and threw myself into the massive marble tub just as more bullets punched through the bedroom walls. The sound was deafening. Sharp cracks and the whistle of rounds passing overhead, punctuated by Dante's returning fire and his voice barking orders into a phone. "South perimeter breach, multiple shooters. Get me eyes on the woods, now." A pause. "I don't care if you have to wake the dead. I want every man we have here in 5 minutes or I'll kill you myself." More gunfire. The sound of furniture splintering, Dante cursing in Italian, fluid and vicious. Then, abruptly, silence again. I lay in the tub, my whole body shaking, my hands pressed over my ears even though the shooting had stopped. This was real. This was actually happening. Men were trying to kill Dante, maybe kill me too, and I was hiding in a bathtub in a stranger's house, while a war erupted around me. "Emma." Dante's voice, slightly breathless. "You okay?" "Define okay," I called back, surprised my voice worked at all. Smart ass. But I heard the relief in his tone. "Stay there. Don't come out until I say." I heard him moving around the bedroom, the crunch of glass under his shoes. More quiet conversation into his phone. Minutes passed. Maybe 5, maybe 50, I couldn't tell, before the main lights suddenly blazed back to life, making me squint against the brightness. "Emma, you can come out now." I climbed out of the tub on shaking legs and emerged into what looked like a war zone. The windows were destroyed, cold November wind pouring in, sending curtains billowing like ghosts. Bullet holes pocked the walls in neat lines. Dante's bed was torn apart, feathers from the pillows drifting through the air like snow, and Dante stood in the middle of it all, his white shirt now torn and splattered with blood, his own this time. I realized with horror, seeing the gash along his upper arm. "You're hurt," I gasped, rushing toward him. "It's nothing. Graze." But he swayed slightly, and I grabbed his good arm to steady him. They weren't trying to kill me. Those shots were designed to keep me pinned, distracted. This was a message. What message? That Marco can reach me, that nowhere is safe, that... He stopped, his jaw clenching as he looked at me. That you're not safe, not even here. The implications of that settled over me like ice water. If Dante Salvatore's fortress could be breached, if all his security and resources couldn't protect us, then what chance did I have? "So what do we do?" I asked, hearing the tremor in my voice. "We adapt." He pulled his phone out, wincing at the movement. "Victoria? I need the penthouse prepared. Full security detail, provisions for 2 people for at least a week, and get me Dr. Chen." He glanced at his arm. "I need stitches." "Penthouse?" I interrupted. "Downtown. 60 floors up, single access point, better security than Fort Knox." He was already moving, grabbing items from drawers that hadn't been shot full of holes. Clothes, documents, cash. "We leave in 10 minutes. Pack light. We'll get you anything you need when we arrive." "I don't have anything to pack. I'm wearing everything I brought." He stopped, really looking at me for the first time since the shooting, taking in my borrowed dress and cheap heels. Something crossed his face, anger at himself maybe, for dragging me into this unprepared. "Right, okay. Just stay close to me. Don't let go of my hand no matter what happens. Understand?" I nodded, unable to form words. The next 10 minutes were chaos. Guards swarmed the estate, heavily armed, setting up new perimeter defenses while others hustled us down to the garage. The car that waited wasn't the elegant Mercedes from earlier, but an armored SUV, black and menacing, with windows so thick I could barely see through them. Dante kept his promise. His hand never left mine, even when he had to bark orders or examine damage reports. His grip was my anchor in the storm, the only thing that felt real as we were swept along by professional efficiency and controlled panic. We drove through the night, through streets I barely recognized, until glass and steel towers rose around us. The vehicle descended into an underground garage that required 3 separate security checkpoints, each guard recognizing Dante instantly and waving us through with crisp salutes. The elevator required both a keycard and fingerprint scan. It shot upward so fast my ears popped, and when the doors finally opened, I stepped into a space that made Dante's estate look quaint. The penthouse was all floor-to-ceiling windows, offering a dizzying view of the city spread out below like a carpet of lights. Modern furniture in blacks and grays, artwork that probably cost more than my life, a kitchen that looked like it belonged on a cooking show. But it was the windows that drew me, so high up, so exposed, making me feel like I was floating above the world. "Bulletproof," Dante said, reading my thoughts. 3 inches thick, could stop a rocket launcher. "That's comforting," I said faintly. An older Asian man emerged from somewhere, carrying a medical bag. "Mr. Salvatore, let me see that arm. Emma first." Dante guided me to a leather couch. "Check her for injuries. She was on the floor when the shooting started." "I'm fine," I protested. But the doctor, Chen, I assumed, was already examining me with professional efficiency, checking my pupils, my pulse, running gentle hands over my arms and legs looking for injuries I hadn't noticed. Mild shock, some bruising forming on the knees and elbows, but otherwise unharmed. He turned to Dante. "Your turn. Sit." Dante finally released my hand, and I immediately felt the loss. I watched as Dr. Chen cut away his ruined shirt, revealing a muscled torso marked with scars, old bullet wounds, knife marks, burns that looked like they'd been torture rather than accident. This was the body of a man who'd survived more violence than I could imagine. The fresh wound on his arm was ugly, a deep gash where a bullet had carved through flesh, but he didn't even flinch as the doctor cleaned and stitched it, his dark eyes never leaving my face. "You should rest," Dr. Chen said when he'd finished, packing his supplies. "Both of you. It's been a traumatic night." "Thank you, Chen." Dante stood, dismissing him with a nod, then moved to a bar cart and poured 2 generous glasses of whiskey. He brought one to me, settling onto the couch close enough that our thighs touched. "Drink. It'll help." I drank, letting the burn ground me. This is insane. This entire situation is completely insane. I know. Men just shot up your house trying to kill us, and now we're hiding in a tower like some twisted fairy tale, and I still barely know you, and my voice cracked. And I should be terrified of you, but instead I keep thinking about how you covered me with your body, how you could have been killed protecting someone you barely know, how you... Emma. He set both our glasses down, then pulled me into his lap with a gentleness that contradicted his violent strength. "Breathe. Just breathe." I buried my face in his neck, breathing in his scent, feeling his heartbeat against my cheek. His arms wrapped around me, secure and protective, and for the first time since the lights went out, I felt the terror start to ebb. "I'm sorry," he murmured into my hair. "I'm so sorry I brought this into your life." "You deserved none of it. Neither did you," I said against his skin. "You didn't deserve what Marco did, what Sophia..." I stopped, feeling him tense. "Tell me about her, please." I saw the photos, the albums. He was silent for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, quietly, we grew up together. Neighbors in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone, where family meant everything. She was sunshine and laughter. Everything good in a world full of darkness. I loved her from the moment I understood what love was. She loved you too. I could see it in the photos. She loved who she thought I was. His voice turned bitter. She knew my family business, knew what I'd inherit. But she thought, we both thought, that I could be different, better, that love could somehow redeem the violence. He laughed, sharp and humorless. We were children playing at adulthood. You were going to be a father. Isabella. His arms tightened around me. We had the nursery painted yellow, neutral, because Sophia wanted to be surprised. She'd sit in the rocking chair and read to her belly, children's books in Italian that her grandmother had brought from Sicily. And his voice broke slightly. I would talk to Isabella every night, tell her about the world I was going to give her, the life where she'd never have to be afraid, never have to see violence, never have to know what her father really was. Tears burned my eyes. Dante? Marco took that from me, from us. And when Sophia lost the baby, he took a shuddering breath. Something in her died too. She looked at me like I was a monster, like I'd killed Isabella myself by being what I am. Maybe she was right. No. I pulled back to look at him, to make him see the truth in my eyes. Marco killed that dream. His betrayal, his choices, his selfishness. You loved them. You would have protected them with everything you had. I did protect them, he said hollowly. And it wasn't enough. So you'll protect me instead. I touched his face, feeling the stubble rough against my palm. You'll throw yourself between me and bullets, lock us in towers, wage war against your enemies, all because I remind you of what you lost. No. His hand covered mine, pressing it harder against his cheek. At first, maybe, but Emma... His eyes met mine, blazing with intensity. You're not a replacement. You're not a second chance. You're something I didn't even know I needed until I saw you standing in that ballroom, broken and beautiful and fighting anyway. I'm not beautiful, I whispered. You are to me. He leaned closer, his breath ghosting across my lips. You're everything good I thought I'd destroyed. Everything soft in a hard world. Everything. His phone buzzed violently, shattering the moment. He cursed, pulling it out, and his expression darkened as he read the message. What? I asked, fear spiking again. Marco sent a video. He hesitated, clearly not wanting to show me. Emma, you don't need to see this. If it's about me, I deserve to know. He studied my face for a long moment, then turned the phone screen toward me. The video showed a warehouse, dim and industrial, and tied to a chair in the center, beaten and bloody but alive, was a woman. Dark hair, dark eyes, her face swollen from violence but still recognizable from the photos I'd seen. Sophia. Hello, old friend. Marco's voice came from off-camera, smooth and mocking. I have something of yours. Well, two somethings now. Your past and your future. Choose which one you want to save. The camera zoomed in on Sophia's terrified face. You have 24 hours. Come alone, or they both die. I'll send the address at dawn. The video ended. I stared at the black screen, my mind refusing to process what I'd just seen. Sophia was alive. Sophia was Marco's prisoner. And Marco was going to make Dante choose between the woman he'd loved for years and the stranger he'd known for 2 days. There was no choice. There couldn't be a choice. You have to save her, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Dante, you have to... No. The word was absolute. I'm not choosing. I'm saving you both. That's not what he's... I don't care what he's offering. Dante stood, setting me gently aside, his entire demeanor shifting into something cold and lethal. Marco made a mistake. He gave me a deadline, a location, and a target. That's all I need. He pulled out his phone, started making calls, his voice crisp with command. Get me everyone. I want every soldier, every ally, every favor I'm owed called in. We have 24 hours to plan a war. I watched him pace, orchestrating violence with the same ease other men planned dinner parties, and realized with crystal clarity what he was. Not a man. A king. A dark emperor who'd burn the world to protect what was his. And somehow, terrifyingly, wonderfully, impossibly, I'd become his. Dawn came too quickly. I'd spent the night curled on Dante's couch while he commanded his army from across the room, his voice never rising but carrying absolute authority. Men came and went, serious-faced soldiers in dark suits, each one reporting on weapons, positions, intel. The penthouse transformed into a war room, and I was a ghost haunting its edges, invisible and irrelevant. Except I wasn't irrelevant. I was the prize, the bait, the reason Dante was risking everything. You should eat something, a woman's voice said softly. I turned to find Victoria, Dante's assistant, holding a plate of food I couldn't imagine eating. She was elegant in a way I'd never be, her black suit impeccable despite the early hour, her expression professionally sympathetic. I'm not hungry, I said. Eat anyway. You'll need your strength. She set the plate down, then surprised me by sitting beside me. He's going to save you both, you know. He won't accept any other outcome. That's not realistic. Marco wants him to choose because there is no way to save us both. That's the entire point of Dante Salvatore doesn't accept limits. She smiled slightly. I've worked for him for 6 years. I've seen him do impossible things simply because he refused to acknowledge they were impossible. If he says he'll save you both, he will. Or he'll die trying. That's what I was afraid of. Tell me about Sophia, I said suddenly. Would they have been happy? If Marco hadn't... Victoria's expression softened. They were already happy. Sophia was sunshine, all warmth and laughter. She softened Dante's edges, made him believe he could be more than his father's legacy. When she got pregnant, he was terrified and thrilled all at once. I've never seen him so vulnerable, so human. She paused. But she wasn't built for this world. The violence, the danger, the constant fear, it wore her down. Even before Marco's betrayal, she was starting to crack under the weight of what loving Dante meant. And now she's been tortured because of him. Again. Now she's been tortured because Marco is a sadistic bastard who can't accept that Dante was always the better man. Victoria's voice turned hard. Don't romanticize what they had, Emma. Yes, they loved each other, but that love was destroying them both. Sometimes love isn't enough. Before I could respond, Dante appeared, his presence filling the room. He'd showered and changed into tactical gear. Black cargo pants, a fitted shirt, holsters crisscrossing his chest, holding weapons I didn't want to name. He looked like death personified, beautiful and terrible. The address came through, he said, his eyes finding mine. An abandoned factory on the south side. Marco's there with at least 20 men, probably more. He's got Sophia in the main building, visible from multiple entry points. It's a trap. Obviously, Victoria said dryly. We're going anyway. He moved to me, crouching, so we were eye level. Emma, I need you to stay here. Full security detail, every exit monitored. You'll be safe. While you walk into a trap to save your ex-girlfriend. The words came out bitter, and I hated myself for it. She was your whole world, Dante. Of course you're going to save her. I'm going to save her because leaving anyone to Marco's mercy is unconscionable, and because she's the mother of my child, even though Isabella never drew breath. His hands framed my face. But Emma, I'm coming back. To you. Not to her. Do you understand? I understand you might die today. I whispered. I understand that Marco has planned this specifically to kill you. And I understand that Sophia loved you first. Longer. Better than I ever could in 2 days. Time doesn't measure feeling. His thumb stroked my cheeks. I felt more for you in our first conversation than I felt for anyone in the 4 years since Sophia left. Does that make sense? No. Do I understand it? No. But it's true. Then don't go. I grabbed his wrists, holding tight. Please. Let Sophia go. Let Marco win. Just don't. I can't. Simple. Final. I can't let anyone suffer because of me. Not anymore. Not ever again. He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to mine. But I will come back. I swear it on Isabella's memory, on everything I am. I will come back to you. He kissed me then, fierce and desperate, tasting like goodbye, like promises we both knew might be lies. I kissed him back, memorizing the feel of him, the taste, the way his hands tangled in my hair like I was something precious. When he pulled away, my cheeks were wet with tears I didn't remember shedding. Stay safe, he murmured. And Emma? If something goes wrong, if I don't come back, there's an envelope in the desk drawer. Everything you need. Money, new identity, contacts who will help you disappear. Promise me you'll use it. Don't. My voice broke. Don't talk like you're not coming back. Promise me. I promise. He stood, nodded to Victoria, and then he was gone, taking his deadly grace and desperate determination with him. The penthouse felt instantly colder, emptier, like all the warmth had followed him out the door. "Now we wait," Victoria said quietly, but I'd never been good at waiting. 3 hours passed like decades. I paced the penthouse, watched the guards at their posts, stared out the bulletproof windows at a city that seemed impossibly peaceful while somewhere in it. The man I'd impossibly fallen for was walking into hell. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against every instinct, I answered. "Hello, Emma." Marco's voice was smooth, cultured. Nothing like the monster I'd imagined. "I thought we should talk, you and I. Woman-to-woman successor." My blood turned to ice. "How did you get this number?" "I get everything I want eventually. It's a gift." I heard the smile in his voice. "You're probably wondering why I'm doing this. Why I'd take Sophia. Why I'd threaten you. Why I'd go to such elaborate lengths to hurt Dante." "Because you're a psychopath," I said, surprised by my own venom. "Because he took everything from me." The cultured tone cracked, revealing rage beneath. "I loved Sophia first, before Dante even looked at her twice. I was there, protecting her, caring for her. But she only had eyes for him, the boss's son, the heir, the golden boy. I was invisible. So you betrayed them both." "I took what should have been mine." His voice rose. "I gave Sophia what Dante never could. Real passion, real desire, real—" He stopped, breathing hard. "She was going to leave him. Did you know that? She was going to take Isabella and run away with me. We had plans, a future, and then she lost the baby because of the stress you caused." Silence. "Long and terrible. That wasn't supposed to happen," he said finally, his voice hollow. "I never meant for Isabella to—" He stopped. "It doesn't matter. And now Dante gets to feel what I felt, losing everything, choosing between past and future, watching his world burn. He's going to kill you," I said with certainty. "Whatever your plan is, it won't work. Dante will save us both, and then he'll end you. Perhaps." Marco sounded almost amused. "Or perhaps Sophia will kill him." "Did you consider that possibility? 4 years of therapy, of healing, of learning to hate the man who brought violence into her life. Do you really think she'll forgive him, thank him for rescuing her?" The thought hadn't occurred to me. The possibility that Sophia might hate Dante as much as she'd once loved him. That saving her might mean bringing his greatest source of pain back into his life. "You're a monster," I whispered. "No, Emma. I'm a man who lost everything and decided to burn it all down." The line went dead. I stood there shaking, the phone slipping from my fingers, Marco's words echoing in my head. Then I was moving, pulling open the desk drawer, finding the envelope Dante had mentioned. Inside, 50,000 in cash, a passport with my photo but a different name, and a handwritten note in elegant script. "Emma, if you're reading this, I'm dead or worse. Take the money, take the identity. Disappear somewhere warm and safe and far from my world. Live the life you deserved, the one I stole from you. And please, if you can, remember me as something other than the monster who destroyed your peace. You were my last good thing. Thank you for that. D." "No." I crumpled the note in my fist. "No, absolutely not." "Miss Reeves?" One of the guards appeared. "Is everything—" "Take me to him." The words came out as a command, surprising us both. "To Dante. To wherever he is right now. Take me now." "I can't do that. Mr. Salvatore's orders were explicit." "I don't care about his orders." My voice rose to a near shout. "Marco called me. He's planning something beyond the obvious trap, something to hurt Dante even if Dante wins, and I need to—" I stopped, seeing the guard's hand move toward his weapon. "Please, please, I'm not asking as a prisoner or a responsibility. I'm asking as someone who—" My voice cracked. "As someone who loves him." The words hung in the air, true and terrifying, and undeniable. The guard studied me for a long moment, then spoke into his earpiece. "This is Reeves. We have a situation. The package wants to—" He listened, his expression unchanging. "Understood." He turned to me. "Get your coat. We leave in 2 minutes." The factory was exactly as terrible as I'd imagined. Rusted metal and broken windows. surrounded by empty lots and decay. Dante's vehicles were positioned in a perimeter, men in tactical gear moving with military precision. I was rushed through lines of soldiers to a command van where Dante stood studying monitors showing multiple camera angles of the factory interior. When he saw me, his expression went through shock, fury, and resignation in rapid succession. "What the hell are you doing here?" he demanded, pulling me aside. "I gave explicit orders. Marco called me." I grabbed his tactical vest, forcing him to look at me. "He told me things, Dante. About Sophia. About his plans. About—" I took a breath. "He said Sophia might kill you, that she hates you now, blames you for everything, that saving her might be worse than letting her die." Something flickered across his face. Acknowledgement, maybe, that he'd considered the same possibility. "It doesn't change anything," he said quietly. "I still have to try." "I know. But you don't have to do it alone." I held his gaze. "Let me help. Let me be part of this." "Absolutely not. You're not trained, not armed, not going to let you walk in there without backup you can actually trust." I surprised myself with my vehemence. "Marco wants you isolated, wants you choosing, wants you broken. But Dante—" I touched his face, feeling stubble and tension. "You don't have to carry this alone, not anymore." For a moment, I saw the war in his eyes, the need to protect me battling with the desperate desire to accept help, to not face this horror alone. Then his hand covered mine, pressing it harder against his cheek. "Stay close to me," he said finally. "Do exactly what I say, when I say it. And Emma," his voice roughened, "if something happens to me, you run. You don't look back. You don't try to help. You just run. Promise me." "I promise," I lied. He knew I was lying. I saw it in his eyes, but he accepted it anyway, pulling me against his chest for one brief, fierce embrace. "Let's end this," he murmured into my hair. Then, louder, to his men, "Move out." We approached the factory in tactical formation, Dante keeping me behind him, his body a shield. The main doors stood open. An invitation, a dare. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered, casting everything in sickly green. And there, in the center of the vast empty space, tied to a chair beneath a single spotlight, was Sophia. She looked worse in person than she had in the video. Face swollen from beatings, hair matted with blood, her body sagging with exhaustion or resignation. But when she saw Dante, her eyes widened, and I couldn't read the emotion there. Fear, hope, hatred. "Dante." Marco's voice echoed through the factory as he stepped from the shadows, gun pointed casually at Sophia's head. "Right on time." "And you brought a guest. How delightful." His eyes found mine, and he smiled. "Hello, Emma. Lovely to finally meet you in person." He was handsome, devastatingly so, in that same dangerous way Dante was, but where Dante's danger felt protective, Marco's felt poisonous. His smile never reached his eyes, which were flat and cold as a shark's. "Let her go, Marco." Dante's voice was steady, his gun trained on Marco's chest. "Your fight is with me, not her, but that's where you're wrong." Marco pressed the gun harder against Sophia's temple, making her whimper. "My fight has always been about her, about what she represented, what she chose, what she—" He stopped, jaw clenching. "Tell him, Sophia. Tell him what you told me the night we were together." Sophia's eyes closed, tears streaming down her battered face. "Tell him," Marco roared. "I said I wished I'd never met you," she whispered, her voice broken. "I wished I could go back and choose differently." "Choose?" Her eyes opened, finding Dante's. "Choose safety over love. Choose peace over you." The words landed like bullets. I felt Dante flinch, saw the pain cross his face before he masked it. "You see?" Marco laughed, bitter and triumphant. "She doesn't want your rescue, old friend. She wants her freedom. From you, from me, from all of this." He leaned closer to Sophia. "Isn't that right, my love?" "Yes," Sophia breathed. "I want to be free. Then I'll give you freedom." Marco moved the gun from her temple to Dante. "You get to choose, Sophia. Me or him. One of us dies here today, and you decide which. Finally, you get to choose. Marco, don't, Dante started. Shut up. Marco's hand trembled on the gun. 4 years, Dante. 4 years I've spent planning this moment, dreaming about it. You're going to know what it feels like to have everything taken from you, to be. I already know, Dante said quietly, and something in his voice made everyone freeze. You think I don't understand loss? You think watching Sophia leave didn't destroy me? You think losing Isabella? His voice cracked. You think that didn't kill something essential in me? Good, Marco spat. Then you understand why. Why you're a coward. Dante lowered his gun, and I nearly screamed. You're so focused on revenge, you've become exactly what you hated about this life. You've hurt innocents, tortured a woman you claim to love, threatened someone who never wronged you. His eyes found mine briefly. You've become the monster, Marco. Not me, you. For a moment, nobody breathed. Then Sophia spoke, her voice surprisingly strong. He's right. Marco's head snapped toward her. What? You're the monster. She looked up at him, and despite the bruises and blood, there was steel in her gaze. I didn't leave Dante because he was violent. I left because I was weak, because I couldn't handle the fear, the constant danger. But you, she laughed, sharp and bitter, you made me face worse horrors in 3 days than Dante brought me in 3 years. So yes, I choose. Sophia, Marco's voice held warning, I choose for you both to let me go. She closed her eyes. I choose freedom from all of this. And if one of you has to die for that to happen, she opened her eyes, looking directly at Marco. Then I choose you. The gunshot rang out before anyone could react. But it didn't come from Marco's gun. It came from Sophia's hand, somehow free from her bonds, holding a small pistol that must have been hidden, planted, waiting for this exact moment. Marco staggered backward, blood blooming across his chest, his expression one of absolute betrayal. Sophia, I'm sorry, she whispered. But you should have let me go. He fell, his gun clattering across the concrete, his eyes fixed on her face even as the light left them. Dante's men swarmed forward, but it was already over. Marco Vitelli was dead, killed by the woman he'd claimed to love. Dante holstered his weapon and moved slowly toward Sophia, who was still holding the gun, still staring at Marco's body. Sophia, don't. She finally looked at him, and I saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of what she'd just done. Don't try to comfort me, don't try to save me. I chose this. I chose violence, just like you always did. Her voice broke. I became like you. You became a survivor, Dante said gently. That's all, a survivor. Is there a difference? She let the gun drop, and Dante caught it before it hit the floor. I need to leave, Dante. Not just this city, this country, this life. I need to disappear. I can arrange that. He glanced at his men. Get her medical attention, new identity, money, transport to wherever she wants to go. Everything she needs. Thank you. Sophia stood on shaky legs, and for a moment they just looked at each other, two people who'd loved and lost and survived. She's good for you, Sophia said finally, her eyes finding me. That girl. She looks at you like you're savable, like there's still something worth loving. There's not, Dante said quietly. Then let her be wrong. Sophia smiled sadly. Let her try. God knows I couldn't. She touched his cheek briefly, a goodbye to everything they'd been. Be happy, Dante. Or at least, be less miserable. Then she was being led away by guards, leaving Dante standing in the middle of the factory, surrounded by violence and death and the ghost of his past. I went to him. His arms came around me immediately, pulling me against his chest so hard I could barely breathe. I felt him shaking, or maybe that was me. Felt the rapid hammer of his heart, felt the reality of how close we'd come to losing everything. It's over, I whispered against his neck. It's finally over. Is it? His voice was hollow. Emma, you saw what I am. What this life is. Violence and death and people getting hurt just for being near me. I saw you willing to die to save someone who didn't even want saving. I interrupted, pulling back to look at him. I I saw you giving her freedom even when it meant losing her again. I saw you being exactly what you accused Marco of not being. Human. I'm not good, Emma. I'm not safe. I'm mine. The word came out fierce, possessive. Surprised me as much as him. If you'll have me. If you'll let me choose this. Choose you. Choose... He kissed me, cutting off my words with his mouth, his hands tangling in my hair, his body pressing me back against a wall, as if he needed to prove I was real. I was here. I was his. I kissed him back just as desperately, tasting violence and victory and the promise of something I didn't have words for yet. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to mine. "Stay with me," he murmured, echoing that first command 2 days and a lifetime ago. "Not because you're in danger, not because I'm protecting you. Stay because you want to, because you love you," I finished, the words terrifying and true. "I love you, Dante Salvatore. I love you, and I'm choosing you, and I'm not running." His eyes closed, and I saw the tear that escaped, the first crack in his armor. "I love you too," he breathed. "God help us both, but I love you too." 6 months later, I stood in the nursery of our penthouse, not Dante's anymore, but ours, painting the walls a soft yellow, neutral, because we wanted to be surprised. I heard him before I saw him, his footsteps familiar now, his presence something I'd learned to read like weather patterns. He appeared in the doorway, loosened tie and tired eyes. But when he saw me, everything softened. "You're supposed to be resting," he said, moving to take the paintbrush from my hand. "Doctor's orders. I'm pregnant, not dying." But I let him take it anyway, let him pull me against him, his hand settling over the small bump of my belly. "How was the meeting?" "Boring. Legal, no violence required." He kissed my temple. "I'm going legitimate, just like I promised. It'll take years, but you're doing it." I turned in his arms, seeing the man he was becoming, still dangerous, still powerful, but channeling it differently now, building instead of destroying. "I'm proud of you. I'm doing it for selfish reasons." "Don't be." His hand moved across my stomach, protective and reverent. "I want our son." "Or daughter," I interjected. "Or daughter to grow up without fear, without violence, without having to choose between love and safety like Sophia did, like you did." "I'd choose you again," I said simply. 1,000 times over, I'd choose you. He kissed me then, soft and sweet, and full of promises we were both determined to keep. When he pulled back, his eyes were wet. "Thank you," he whispered, "for staying, for choosing, for loving the monster." "You're not a monster," I said, the words I'd repeated 100 times in 6 months. "You're just a man who's been through hell and came out fighting. And Dante..." I took his hand, placed it over my heart. "You're my man, my love, my home, and you're mine." He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my lips, my Emma, my miracle. Our baby kicked, interrupting him, and we both froze, eyes wide with wonder. "Did you feel that?" I breathed. I felt it. His voice was choked with emotion. "Isabella, We're not naming her Isabella," I said gently. "That name belongs to your first daughter. This baby, whether she's a boy or girl, deserves her own name, her own story, her own hope," he said suddenly. "If it's a girl, Hope Salvatore." I smiled through tears. "And if it's a boy, Gabriel. It means God is my strength." He knelt before me, his hands cradling my belly, his head resting against our child. "And I'll need all the strength I can get to be the father they deserve. You'll be amazing," I promised, running my fingers through his hair. "You already are." We stayed like that, 2 broken people who'd found each other in violence and chosen love instead, building a future we'd both thought impossible. Outside, the city sprawled beneath us, full of danger and darkness and 1,000 ways to fall. But up here, in our yellow nursery with its unfinished walls and uncertain future, we were safe. We were home. We were free. And that finally was enough.